All right. Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video here with Earth-Based Institute. I'm Michael Jospe. I'm the founder of Earth-Based Institute and creator of the Nature Connected Coaching Program. And a few days ago, I was reading through just the news headlines, and I came across this article about someone who was really like causing some serious financial and emotional harm to their clients. They were really manipulating them, all under the title of life coach. And, in a very self-serving way, controlling them. And, that's not the first time I've heard of something like that. And it really, it's upsetting to read about, but for a number of different reasons. But one of them being, just the impact that has on the whole industry of coaching, and the kind of myths that get created around what coaching is when something like that happens, and unfortunately, it happens a lot. Um, and so, how do you separate yourself from that mess, essentially, and present yourself as a legitimate coach to the world? And that really shows that you're working in the best interest of your clients. And so, I think one of the ways that we can get into that conversation, it's something that's really important to me and to us here at Earth-Based Institute and with our Nature Connected coaching students. So I think we can get into this by just kind of talking about some different myths of what coaching is, because what that coach was doing was not coaching. I shouldn't even use the word coach in association with what that person was doing, because as a coach, that would never happen. You would never get to that place with your clients. So if you are serious about developing yourself professionally as a legitimate coach, then it's really essential for you to think of yourself as a professional coach. And that's actually a title, professional coach. And that title is defined by the International Coach Federation, and it provides a clear set of guidelines and competencies and ethics that are a part of the world of professional coaching. And so that term, that concept of coaching, professional coaching, that field of professional coaching is anchored in something. It's legitimate. The ICF provides the accreditation for programs like ours. It provides the credentialing for coaches. And I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. But really, it adds legitimacy to your coaching, and I'll talk about why here. But it's a great direction to take if you're looking to really become a legitimate coach, is to look for credentialing. Okay, so let's get into some of these myths and about what coaching is and what coaching isn't. Okay, so here's just a little piece here on the ICF, the International Coach Federation, and a important organization here for us. Okay, so myth one. Coaching means advice giving. And honestly, that's consulting. That's not professional coaching at all. Coaching is not about advice giving. So giving an expert advice and specific direction on certain things is great, but that's not coaching. That is consulting. Okay, so for example, let's say you're a business owner and you want to increase conversions to your website. You can hire a consultant, right? And that consultant will review your website and they'll tell you exactly how to improve it. And they might even help you make those changes or guide you through making those changes, right? It's very specific expert-focused advice. That's consulting. Now, a coach, a professional coach, would approach this same topic in a less directive way, but in a couple of different ways. So, for example, a coach might use questions to help the client conduct their own research on where the website needs to improve and help them set goals about how they're going to make those changes happen. Okay? And the professional coach might also be curious about how this might impact this client's development as a business owner. Okay, so it might also look at the professional coach might also invite, if the client wants, a bigger possibility around this question that is, how do I improve my website? Okay, so very different approaches. Consulting is about giving advice, and there are people out there who have tremendous experience and a wealth of education and knowledge and are there to give that advice, and is fantastic, but that's not coaching. And a lot of consultants call themselves coaches. So there is a difference there, and it's important to know that difference. Is one better than the other? Of course not. Okay, but it really depends on the situation, depends on what the client needs. But it's really important to not confuse the two. Okay. So the second myth here, and I have to keep adjusting my camera a little bit. The second myth here is that coaching is a replacement for psychotherapy. And this comes up a lot. And it's kind of a question that gets asked a lot in our program. Because sometimes coaching can be therapeutic, but it's not therapy. And I think that there's a real important distinction here to be made. Okay, so really, coaching is not about treatment or diagnosis. That's the world of a psychotherapist. That's the world of a psychologist, to diagnose, to treat. Okay, coaching does not approach somebody's issues and challenges in that way. Okay, it's a non-clinical and it's a future-oriented process. So it's non-clinical and future-oriented. And coaching is definitely informed by the field of psychology. Okay, like that's important, right? It's like there's so much information about change and about the brain and all of that that's really important to coaching. But again, it's used in a different way. Okay, so the focus in coaching is not on analysis or diagnosis or treatment. But, for example, let's just say working with trauma. Okay, trauma comes up all the time in our work as coaches because everybody has trauma. Okay, so understanding the science behind trauma and how traumatic memories can arise during a coaching session is really, really important. Okay, but the difference between therapy and coaching in that concept is that as a coach, you'll support the client to regulate, maybe to ground, and to come back into the here and now so they can keep moving towards their goals. Okay, as a therapist, you might start to investigate the origin of that trauma. You might start to investigate how the client relates to their past experiences and so forth. Okay, in a coaching session, perhaps the client might identify some past trauma, right? Some memories might come up for them and identify that trauma as something that's really affecting them from reaching their goals. But so a coach doesn't necessarily, doesn't discount the client history in any way. But listens to it through the lens of the goals. Okay, listens to it through the lens of the goals that the client has for themselves. All right. So it's not to say that a therapist won't do that, because of course they will do that. But we're not, but instead of listening to it, but as a coach, you're listening to it about how we're supporting our clients to move forward. And perhaps from a therapeutic standpoint, or from a therapy standpoint, a clinical therapy standpoint, you might be listening to that history and analyzing that through a particular lens of clinical treatment, of diagnosis, so that can help you as a therapist understand what's going on with the client and how you might treat that process. Okay, that's not what we're doing in coaching. So understanding the different skill sets of a coach is essential. Okay, so being able to and being able to do that, understanding the different skill sets of coaching and therapy, actually can create a really powerful partnership, professional partnership between those two modalities. Okay, I've had some of the most wonderful coaching experiences with clients when I've worked in a team with a therapist that's focused on specific aspects of the client's psychology. So it can really serve in the best interest of the client. And certainly if you're able to distinguish and work between, within the realm of coaching, really understand the difference between coaching and therapy, that really serves the client well. So again, the mindset of the coach is it's not I'm going to heal you, right? Or help you resolve your past trauma. But we have to be really careful about that in coaching, because a lot of clients will come to coaching to be healed, all right? And it's really, and certainly in nature-connected coaching. And so it's really important that we are able to clarify the difference here. Okay, so the client can make the right choice for themselves. So this brings me into the next myth, really, to talk about this idea of healing. And we don't know what else to call it, so let's just call it coaching, right? Coaching is not a catch-all. I guess that should be the title of the myth. Coaching is not a catch-all. We see this a lot where there's a lot of people out there, a lot of healers out there that call themselves coaches or life coaches. And the idea of nature-connected coaching can actually create some confusion with this, because as we know, nature is a powerful healer. And the difference is that as a nature-connected coach, we're not using nature as a treatment or as a medicine, okay? That's really important. Like, a healer might approach nature as a medicine or as a treatment, but as a nature-connected coach, that's not what we're doing. Okay, so as a nature-connected coach, we aim to collaborate with the environment that the client is in during the session, and to help them discover and practice and empower their new beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors that are important to the client to reach their goals. Okay, so in this way, healing is kind of a byproduct of a nature-connected coaching session. It's not the central focus. It's not even like the client might say, oh my gosh, I feel like I just had a healing. But that's not what we're focusing on in our work with somebody. That's the client's interpretation of what just happened. We're not presenting ourselves as healers. Okay, so when it comes to different types of healing and coaching, coaching is not giving intuitive advice. It's not psychic or spiritual guidance. Here's some other pieces. It's not mentoring. It's not training. Okay. It's not channeling. It's not using energy medicine to inform the client's decisions. So as a coach, you see the client as the master of their own lives and their own careers. And, even if they're wanting you to heal them, your goal is to not give them the directions, but instead help them find their own sense of direction. That is so important, and it's a really important line, ethical line to hold as a coach. This ties in to a really important concept, which we don't really have time to get into in this call, but that it's about power and the power that a coach has, okay, and that a therapist has, anybody in a helping role has with a client. Okay, you have a tremendous amount of influence over your client, and as a professional coach, you are very intentionally aware of that influence, and really intentionally putting the client's strengths and wisdoms and goals and knowledge and connections first. Okay. So just a few other pieces here, because I use all these words, guiding and mentoring and training. What's the difference there? Okay, so guiding is more directive. It's like kind of a specific context in a way. It's not quite consulting, but think of a wilderness guide or an advisor, right? Like an academic advisor or a career advisor or someone like that that can kind of guide you step by step to follow as you are, working towards a particular goal. Mentoring. Now, this is another wonderful modality, but it's a less informal relationship than coaching or therapy or even training. It's about sharing advice and guidance based on experience. Okay, that's mentoring. So a mentor is someone that you look up to as an inspiration and support as you navigate through different stages in your life or career, kind of like a wise elder, right? Who has mastered aspects of life that you're trying to get to in your own world, that you're trying to achieve. And that this person can see your potential and understands through their own experience the life ahead, the steps ahead that you have. Okay, that's a mentor. Mentors are really important. I worked as a mentor for many years for young adults and for teenagers and so forth. But it's not coaching. Okay, so and training's different also, right? Training is focused on developing a certain skill set or behaviors, something like that, with very clear outcomes and objectives. Think of like a personal trainer that you would go to at a gym, right? Someone that is going to help you get from A to B very clearly. And they're going to train you in how to do that so you can keep moving in that direction. Okay. Now, it's really important to understand the differences between all these different modalities so you can articulate them very clearly. But it's not to say, and this is really important as well, it's not to say that you can't blend these different modalities together. But your client has to understand the difference. Okay, you've got to help them understand the difference. As a professional coach, they need to understand the difference. You need to understand the difference, and agree together on how these two different different modalities are going to be used. So yeah, it's a little bit of an extra step in terms of how you organize yourself with your client, but it's a professional step. It brings ethical legitimacy to the work that you're doing. Okay. All right. So our next myth here is that coaching is not regulated, just kind of up for grabs. And this is not the case with professional coaching. So the ICF, like what I was referring to before, provides oversight and accountability and credentialing for professional coaches. So what I mean by oversight is that there is a board, right, that is overseeing the accreditations of programs like Earth-Based Institute. They're overseeing the credentialing of coaches. They are overseeing the development and the articulation of the different ethics and competencies that are a part of professional coaching, and ensuring that people that are accredited as coaches are working within those ethical guidelines and demonstrating these coaching concepts or these coaching competencies. And another element of this component of this board and the oversight that the ICF provides is really important because it provides a way for clients to file grievances. Now, I know that might sound like, well, Michael, why would you want that? Well, it's about accountability and it's about client rights. And this is a real professional component to the work that we want to be doing with people. We want people to feel as if they are empowered inside of this work. So if you're starting to work unethically with the client has every right to question that and bring that to a board of oversight. That is really, really important. And, so this is a real important benefit around having the credential as a coach. And I know that might sound a little like, limiting or something like that, which is kind of the next myth on this that we'll get to, but it's not. So let's get into that. Credentialing is limiting. There's a myth for you, right? I hear it all the time. Michael, I don't know if I want to be an ICF coach because it feels limiting. It feels like I have to be inside of some box or structure or something like that. And, one of the ways that we approach this is, yes, you could absolutely feel like you're being put into a box if you approach it in that direction. But that is not the way to look at it, okay? And the way that we work with this with our nature connected coaches is they come in and like you might even be connecting with this in yourself. You have a vision for the work that you want to do. You know that nature is a powerful healing source and that and you want to be able to offer transformational experiences for people, but you want to be able to do that with some legitimacy, right? You want to be able to do that with confidence, with competence, all of that. Okay, so it's not about the way that we approach this, not about how do you fit nature and the huge power of nature into the box of coaching, but instead, how does the competencies and the techniques and the skills and the ethics of coaching support the power of nature? Okay, so what we're doing with our clients, with our students, is that we are showing them as they're starting to learn and practice this work and develop it for themselves, we go through great detail on how they are demonstrating the competencies and then being able to give them very direct feedback on how they can improve their demonstration of these ICF competencies so they can take the work that they do in the world and are called to do in the world and get credentialed around it, okay? So working towards that credential, what we found over the years with our students is that it just really sharpens your skills as a coach. There's nothing limited about it. In fact, you might have to kind of get through a little bit of a keyhole in terms of like understanding the concepts, but once that clicks, the world opens up in a really big way. So it's not about how do we fit nature into the box of coaching. Instead, it's really about how does coaching support the power of nature? And how does the competencies of coaching really support our client to interact with the power of nature? Okay, so that was a little bit of a longer video here. I'll throw this one little piece in here because I forgot to mention, I do think it's important, is that, that kind of ties into what I was saying before, right? Like credentialing is limiting if you are afraid to be held accountable for your work, okay? I think that it would absolutely feel limiting. And just, sit with that concept for a moment. Because you want to feel confident about the work that you're doing. you don't want to feel, by, I would imagine so, because, most of the folks that come through Earth-Based Institute, the last thing that they're wanting is to feel doubt or lack of competence or lack of confidence in the work that they're doing. So, you know, if you're afraid of being held accountable of your work, then it seems like it would be really important to take a good look at what the kind of work is that you're doing. And perhaps start to seek out certification and credentialing to help kind of steer it in a way that really grounds it and anchors it so you can feel really solid about the kind of work that you're doing. Okay, so that's what I have for you in this video. It's a little bit longer than normal. But thank you for watching. Share your thoughts with me if you can. Post any comments or email me. And thanks for taking the time to watch through this, and have a wonderful day.